Hi. Okay, how do I do this?
Come on, Kevin. I got faith in you. Where you at? All right, 6 o'clock. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all. Betty, you good?
Yes. Yeah, I'm just checking to see if we've got Dr. McCloy, but I don't see him in there yet.
You just signed on.
Did he?
Okay. Yep.
I see
I'm
him.
here.
I see him.
Yay, hello.
Yay. Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Chamberlain,
Here.
Mrs. Saylor. Oh,
Here.
thank you. Mrs. Corey,
Here.
Mr. Dilts,
Here.
Colonel Hensky,
Here.
Dr. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Lepsis,
Here.
Dr. McCloy,
Here.
and Mrs. Shoemaker.
Here.
Thank you.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is to announce that adequate notice of this meeting was given in the following manner. On January 8th, 2020, notice of this meeting was transmitted to the Burlington County Times and Central Record, filed with the Township Clerk, and posted in the office of the Business Administrator Board Secretary. Additional notification was made on November 24th, 2020, in the Burlington County Times to inform the public that this meeting was rescheduled and will be held in virtual format. Notification was also posted on both the district website and the district app. I direct the Business Administrator Board Secretary to enter this statement into the minutes. Okay, we have a presentation from Sean.
Yes, thank you. Just give me 1 second to share the screen. Okay, can you all see that?
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
so what this is or I should say, twice a year, we as a district are supposed to share our student safety data. So for this actually covers the term from last January through June of last school year. We will do the data for this time frame from the start of the school up until the end of December in the springtime. So as you see here, and then we look at last year just from that cycle and also from the whole year, because I want to give you a complete picture. During the cycle that was included, there was only one HIB during that time frame. But I also want to include the whole year picture because I didn't want us to think that that was some sort of anomaly due to the remote shutdown of schools as well. Now, one thing that is well to note is there are other categories that the school district has to report to the state in terms of violence, vandalism, weapons, and substance abuse. Those categories are all zeros for our district as a whole. So the only thing that we have to report to the state is our confirmed HIBs that we had in Olson. And again, during this time frame from this reporting, there was one, but for the year as a whole, there were three. Some things that we've done to make sure that we stay that way as a whole district, we do participate in the Week of Respect, Anti-Violence Week. We do multiple Spirit Weeks to try to make sure that we have a positive culture in our school, and Red Ribbon Week to make sure that we're doing positive activities. Again, one of the big things at Olson is our No Place for Hate program, including last year, we had a guest speaker who was a Holocaust survivor come and speak to the students. We do different public service announcements they did last year. They were Seneca students that came in to meet with our students about being positive peer mentors. And we did an ADL spring essay as well. In terms of Tabernacle Elementary School last year, they also had a guest speaker about making positive choices. There was their Red Ribbon Week poster contest, a number of things that happened within the classroom in terms of the morning meetings, responsive classroom, again, to make sure students are making positive decision-making in their lives. Now, again, this is a real focus on last year, and I know this is very brief, but one of the things that we've talked a lot about is making sure that although we know that our district does not have many issues or did not have many issues last year when it comes to HIB and other things, is to try not to say that that doesn't mean that there are things that are going by the cracks. So one of the things that I've been looking into is through our GIF actually enables us to participate in a program called Stop It. And for your, I have a brief video for your education as we're looking into adopting this program to help us, again, to make sure that just because those are the ones that were reported to us, to also give our students other outlets at times to find ways to share what's going on with adults as well.
Life can be difficult, and it's not always easy to speak up when something's wrong or dangerous in your life or someone else's. Stop It empowers you to help yourself and to help others. Stop It gives you a voice to do what's right, to deter troublesome behaviors like bullying, cyberbullying, and hazing, helping to make your school environment a safer and happier place to learn and grow. What is Stop It? Stop It is a simple, fast, and powerful app giving you the power to make a difference today. You can report anything. You can report issues like bullying, hazing, violence, and inappropriate behavior on and offline, virtually anything. Doing the right thing is as simple as one click on your phone, sending your report in real time to people that care and are ready to help. Make no mistake, Stop It is 100% anonymous. Period. End of story. How does it work? Once downloaded, open the app and enter the access code provided by your school. Now, go make a difference. If you experience or are a witness to something you would like to report, simply open the app, tap the report button where you can send a message, photo, screenshot, or video evidence to the people that can help. Hit send and feel great. Next, the people that can help will receive your alert. When necessary, someone can reach out to you with Stop It Messenger, 100% anonymous two-way chat. In some cases, you may want to reach out for help when times are tough. When you need someone to listen and to help, you can use Stop It Messenger. Let's start making a difference. Download the Stop It app. It's free.
So one of the things that I found most impressive when meeting with Stop It about their product, just so you know, is the fact that it is monitored 24/7 by their company. And it actually is no cost to us as a district. It is something that's provided by the GIF. And what happened is if they got something that someone was putting in any time of day or whenever, their data bank, so to speak, would go over the system. And if they needed to, they would flag us and let us know that, hey, we have a situation to handle. So they even have a multitude of resources in terms of social emotional learning that they can put on there for the students as well, which I thought was a really good thing to have that in the students' hands. Because again, they're going through so much these days, to have them have another resource to turn to of, what do I do? I thought it was a great thing too. So it's not just about trying to get the students to come and speak out if there's trouble, but also to help identify things that could help themselves as well. So that's our presentation on SSDS. Any questions?
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Absolutely, go.
Are the kids allowed to, I like that program, but are the kids allowed to have their cell phones? Because it said if you see something, take a picture of it.
So that's the thing, Gail, I'm still talking to them about. I want to find out if there's a web-based aspect of it too. Again, they did say it's 24/7 access, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's something directly in the school itself. Because we don't have our students are not supposed to be using their cell phones during the day. So it seems like it's something that is geared, as towards the middle school age group in particular. But that's the one piece of the puzzle I want to make sure that is clarified.
Okay.
Sean, what if an accusation is made? What does the school do?
Again, we would have to look into a situation. It's the same thing as anything right now, Brian. Anytime there is an HIB accusation, the school has to investigate to find out if it does meet the criteria of a harassment, intimidation, and bullying case, and go from there. But the idea is to help out for other situations, not just the harassment, intimidation, or bullying. So if someone sees something, it could be anything, not just those cases, but let's say that someone saw somebody using something they shouldn't in a bathroom or whatever the case may be, they can report this with at least a little bit of anonymity behind it, and enable the school to act accordingly as well.
I have concerns from a purely constitutional point of view, the right to, confront your accuser. This is just rife for abuse and to be used as a bullying tool, as opposed to stop bullying. To make an anonymous comment or suggestion, and you're gonna, have people getting swatted and, being brought down to an office to answer questions on some anonymous tip that comes across a thing. It strikes me as very un-American. It strikes me as dangerous, and strikes me as something that is maybe well-intentioned, but I can see all sorts of bad consequences coming out of this gateway.
That has not been the I guess feedback from the other districts that talked about using it on the what I saw. But we're like I said, it's something we're looking into.
Have we spoken to the district's attorneys about, the ability to take action based upon these sorts of anonymous tips that are just made? And I view it as the ability for overreach and abuse is huge.
Yeah, but Sean, every time you get information though on a HIB, you got to go through certain steps and bring in the.
You are correct.
I mean, there's a litany of things that you have when we go through that. So it's not like.
Yes, you can't just because someone says that it's a HIB, you still have to find out more about it. You have to hit certain criteria before the
You gotta
investigation.
be dragging the kids into the office and asking them questions and everything else. And this just seems like a very low standard to initiate a very serious response.
Sean, just like, for example, if someone says something happened in the hallway,
Mhm.
I assume that the district's first step is not to pull students into an office, but to look at the tapes, to reach out to teachers, to do that investigation before you would even pull students in. Am I correct? To try and find veracity of a statement.
Yes, we try to find out as much as you can before you do a full investigation. But again, a lot of it is just one of the things that was nice about this is what they didn't go into here. What impressed me is, again, is the 24/7 aspect of it, where if a student is reaching out for help, that they have someone who is going to be monitoring that, they can get them the resources they need, not just for the HIB. Again, the HIB is one piece of the puzzle, not the whole puzzle.
On that
When
note,
students,
go ahead, Brian.
go ahead, Colonel.
I defer to you. You're in the role.
I say, so when a comment's made, a student called me this, or a student said that, or used this, politically unpopular phrase to describe somebody else. I mean, the only way to do an investigation is to start talking to students.
It does lead down that path. Yes, eventually you'd want to talk to the students. Like I said, the HIB piece of it is one of the many pieces. The big piece of it is not just the HIB, because again, with the HIB, it requires certain steps according to the statute as well. Like I said, it's also the social emotional aspect. And they talked a lot about how, if you are seeing something that, again, is improper, or you yourself need help, or you're having suicidal ideations, this gives a support line directly built into it. Which, like I said, there are a lot of things, especially when talking about the social emotional well-being of our students, there are a lot of positive resources behind it. And just because, if we decide to do something, it doesn't mean it's going to be, if it doesn't work out, doesn't mean there's any long-term commitment to it as well. It's something that's completely no cost to the district included because of our involvement in our GIF.
Sean, you said that,
Go ahead, Kev.
you said that I think in the video, they said that everything goes back to this company's site or to their information. Are they monitoring this 24/7 with live people,
Exactly.
or is it some
Yes.
computer algorithm?
No, they said they have 24/7 live staff.
And does everything get back to the district, or is there a chance of things dropping through if it is used?
The impression I got was that everything that's going to be something sort of actionable comes to us.
Okay, just to make sure that if we have a legal obligation to follow up on something that's given through this and it doesn't get back to us, making sure that that doesn't put us at risk.
No, I think actually that's why they have the 24/7 support, because they're thinking that the school district might not be catching something, that I'm paying attention to it the same way. nights, weekends, and the like. Therefore, their staff would be the ones filtering a lot of that stuff in the after hours.
What's our current procedures, our current policies for when a HIB is suspected or reported, and what are the avenues available to people right now to make those reports?
Students are supposed to come and make the reports directly to us, and so on. But one of the things when we actually did our reporting last time was to try to set up an electronic. We lost points because one of the things we did not have properly was an electronic pathway for reporting. And this actually would help us with our HIB reporting for next year, making sure we are looking at a deficiency we identify when we did our report for the district, and try to make sure that we're getting those points moving forward. So that was one of the things that also we thought this was very timely when our GIF sent out the information about this.
Do we know of any other school districts that's already using it? Have they given any feedback? Or is this something brand spanking new?
This is definitely not brand spanking new. In fact, if I think I saw Casey on here, and I believe his previous district had used it. Am I correct, Casey?
That's correct, Sean. And actually, part of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights in New Jersey, we have to have an anonymous form of bullying reporting. And that's what we utilized it for at North Plainfield.
Sean, to go back to the anonymous part, and if a child gets on there and reports that they're in some sort of crisis, or another child says, hey, you know, how do we know if they go on there and say, I'm not really well, I'm thinking about hurting myself, and then hit send? All we can do is text them back and say, hey, we're here to help, right? We can't find out who they are.
Well, I think that is part of the next piece of it. I think the reporting, there's enable to do anonymous reporting, but if you need the additional help, I think then that can be identified that way. But again, as Casey said, this is something, and as I mentioned too, that we identified as we were deficient in when we did our report card, and this helps us to get those points that our district did not get previously. So again, this is something that we are supposed to have and supposed to do. And this is no cost to the district. And again, I know that you're asking a lot of the things in terms of the what ifs with the negative aspects of it, but I think in terms of the positive as well, and putting our faith in our students that they're going to use this in the right way, not to point fingers and cast aspersions in a negative way and try to make sure people are getting in trouble. But I think our students, as we've seen, are more on the lookout for trying to identify things that are wrong in the district with their peers and so on, and not make things up to help others. It's one of the things I'm most impressed with of our student body is how in tune they are with the needs of their classmates. And again, going back to, as we saw before, with the limited number of HIBs we've had, I think a lot of that shows that our students traditionally do not look at ways to say so-and-so did this or so-and-so did that when it's not accurate. So again, I think, yes, that we can certainly poke holes and say, well, what ifs, but I'd like to say, what will this do in a positive way to help the others?
Sean, just to confirm, because you said something, I just want to make sure I understood it. We are required to have an anonymous reporting system.
Correct.
So Brian brought up some concerns about anonymity and that type of thing. But this is required in the law that we have an anonymous. It doesn't have to be electronic. It could be paper, but we have to have an anonymous system.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. I just wanted to confirm that I understood that. Thank you.
Correct. There was also an electronic piece of it that was part of our points as well. So this,
and that was one of the things that we identified when we approved the bullying stuff, bullying paperwork, that we said we wanted to look at ways of upping that number. Okay. Thank you.
That hits all aspects of that.
Thank you.
I think it's a beautiful solution in search of a problem that we don't have, but I think it raises more problems than it addresses. And it's we've seen it in other municipalities and cities and states with the COVID quarantine snitch lines and what goes through there. And it's not a fan. I understand protecting the kids, and our HIB cases, thankfully they're low. We have procedures and mechanisms in place now. This seems overreaching, and whether the state requires an anonymous thing or not, there is a constitutional aspect to this as well that is troubling to me. So
I think we have to look at the other side of it too. If a child is in crisis or a student sees a friend that's having a serious problem and they're concerned, I see a positive side to that. So I think I hear what you're saying, Brian, but I think we have to look at what it can do for a child that's in crisis. And I think a lot of children now are suffering high anxiety. I don't know. Casey and Sean might know better than me if children are coming to them, but I think it has a positive side to it.
I think it's ripe for unintended, but definitely not unforeseen consequences.
And again, just because we adopt something and try using it through the rest of this year, it doesn't, and we experience negative results from it, doesn't mean that we pivot to a different thing. But as it stands right now, we're looking into this model. It is something that was recommended from our GIF. So I don't think they would also steer us in a direction that would be something that would be a punitive nature to our district. It's something that we're not looking to say is turning on right now. So we need to find more information that ideally, if we were to go with this product, it would be something that our launch would not be until after the winter break at the earliest.
Did the company provide you any type of data on misuse of anything? I mean, were they one follow-up on a report and it wasn't true or wasn't substantiated?
We're in early stages, Steve, of some of those things, but I will ask that question.
I just think to Brian's point, I mean, there are a lot of people go on Facebook and they write things that they would normally never say in front of anybody else, but they're willing to post it and live forever online. So, we have that, there is that threat, but I mean, obviously I think the good outweighs the bad, but there are those pitfalls. And I just rather have some data that says, yeah, you know what, we have a 3% false report and can we live with that? And if it, so especially if it meets what our legal obligations are.
I think that
You should never get past the accusation stage. If you're clear, then that's never on page one.
Well, again, when you talk about any of the HIB situations, that's why you have multiple steps and thresholds. Just because someone says something is a HIB doesn't mean it is a HIB. The anti-bullying Bill of Rights is very clear on the many things that have to happen for it to be considered a case of harassment, intimidation, or bullying. So I think that's also, again, going back to the things that I said we did last year and are continuing to do with our counselors and our staff this year is to make sure that our students are very aware of what it is and what is not a HIB, what you should say, what you should not say, and making sure character education is a very important part of our students' education in Tabernacle.
This would be a voluntary thing for the students, right? You're not saying every student has to sign up. It would just be,
It's available.
this is available.
Yep.
Do it or don't do it.
Absolutely, man.
And Sean, what about the kids that are younger that wouldn't be signing up for this themselves? Are the parents signing up for this, or is it just the kids?
I think for most part, their recommendation for Kevin was for the older students primarily, especially when I talked to him about some like the character education aspects of it, the social emotional learning that they have some programs on there. They did say that a lot of that skews more towards 4th or 5th on up. So that seems to be their target range of most of the users. So like anything else, somebody else could report something, but even when it comes to a case of a HIB, you need to make sure that a parent themselves as a third party can't technically be a witness. That's all goes back to how when you do the investigation is to make sure a parent can say, hey, to speak to my child, the child saw it, but the parent themselves who is being told a situation from their child cannot be considered a witness in a HIB case.
Hey, Sean, this is Dan. I have a question as well. So while this is an anonymous reporting tool, if through investigation or through happenstance, it ended up being, heaven forbid, a criminal investigation, is it traceable at that point?
I will ask that question.
I mean, for the intent and purpose that it's meant to be used as a reporting tool, I get that it's anonymous. But if stuff goes sideways.
But again, when you're talking about there's the protections, obviously, in general, if you're reporting something in terms of it being used against you as the reporter necessarily as well. Right?
Say that last bit again.
I said there are protections for someone who is reporting something as well. So in terms of the investigation, you're
right.
concerned about the reporter, the individual reporting the situation being used back in part of the criminal investigation, as opposed to the person who is being.
Yeah. Is there an opinion from our local extension from law enforcement that are in our buildings from time to time?
They would be connected to this. That's actually part of it, is when you sign up for the program, they are part of the reporting. And it goes directly to the barracks.
What I asked though was, is there an opinion from them in terms of the program?
No, they said if, they basically said no problem, and here's the number if you need to attach one of us to it. That was really the bulk of it. The impression I got is they're familiar with these types of programs at this point.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Sean, is that the end of your
All good.
presentation?
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to public comment. This is our one and only comment time. Anybody has any comments on agenda items?
I have someone with a hand raised. Hold on. I'm sorry, this is the first time I'm the admin for this, so bear with me. Julie, you had your
Is
hand
that
raised?
you,
Yep,
Julie?
it's me.
Hi.
Hello.
Please state your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes-ish.
Julie Toon, TEA co-president and 5th grade teacher. Just wanted to make a comment, more of a request of the board. So we know that the numbers are going up. We got our letter last week that's basically like prepare for everything, whether that's staff and students and parents and all of that. So if there were to be a situation where the school had to shut down and all of the kids had to go virtually, I guess our request from the staff perspective would to be also give the staff the option of working from home. We completely understand that the kids wouldn't be in the building so that there would be less people. However, any reduction in the number of people would just kind of reduce any unnecessary exposure to us. And, I know our staff members with health concerns or those caring for loved ones with, health concerns at home would certainly appreciate not having to travel out of their homes and communities if not necessary, especially, if the numbers do rise to the point of which either we decide or the county or the state decides to shut down. So just a request for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands?
Not that I see, no. No. Mm.
Okay.
Make sure I'm not wrong. No, I don't see
Yeah, I
anybody.
scrolled through, I didn't see anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, continuing on for ed tech. We have a couple of things, A and B. Can I get a motion?
So moved, Megan Jones.
Second,
Second, Kevin.
any comments or questions?
Yes, I have a question. For the curriculum for the 6th and 8th grade, both the theater and the dance, I wanted to know, was there a reason why there were no essential questions included? Activities or assessments, it's just learning objectives, where the K through 5 seems to be a little bit more thorough. So I didn't know if there was a special reason why grade 6 through 8 did not follow the same format.
A lot of this, Gail, goes back to the baseline of what the state we're told is going to look for our CUSAC evaluations. Again, these are not the programs in terms of the theater and the dance in particular, things that we are going as a district going to offer at this time, but it is mandated by the state that all districts have the theater and the dance curriculums on file for them to at least review for CUSAC purposes. So that's exactly what you're finding there.
Okay, I just wanted to know what the reason was. Okay, thank you.
No problem. And just real quickly, just so you all know too, I apologize if this wasn't clarified. When it comes to the instruction and program section for the CUSAC review, the reason why you see the top section is 0s and the bottom is 40 is all those come from the county level and the state level. They have not issued us our scores at this point in time, as they usually would before you do your DPR. So we were advised to just fill out the bottom section, which is the stuff that our district is responsible for reporting, and then they will give us our scores at a later date.
Any other questions or comments? Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey,
Yes.
Mr. Dilks,
Yes.
Colonel Hensky,
Yes.
Dr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis,
Yes.
Dr. McCloy,
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker,
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain.
Yes.
Thank you.
At this time, it doesn't appear we have anything under human resources. Move on to operations. We have A. Can I get a motion?
Can we get a little background on it before we move into the vote?
Have to have a motion.
We have to have a motion first, and then it comes under questions and comments.
So moved, Vicky.
Brian.
I'm sorry.
So moved, Gail.
And second, Vicky,
Vicky and-
okay.
All right, Vicky and Gail. Now
So-
questions or comments. Go ahead, Brian.
What is this?
So what this is we had to do our compliance for the Alyssa's grant, Alyssa's law, which is the panic button in the schools. And then there were two parts to it. The first part was compliance. And then the second part was they were allotting each district a certain amount of money that we could upgrade our system. And this is the grant portion of it. So they approved the system that we have and the panic buttons and the wireless communication to the police. And then in the second part of it, they were giving us $37,000 that we can now do upgrades to our security system and improve it. What you're seeing here was very specific language, which was on the grant software, that we have to adopt this resolution in this manner, word for word. I have to send this back to the state as part of the grant application.
So our system did pass muster with the powers that be. They're
Yes.
giving us $37,000. Should we choose to upgrade and go above and beyond the system that currently works?
And
And then we're also holding ourselves open to use local funds in case the total estimated cost of proposed work exceeds the grant.
correct.
Sounds like a blank check you're asking me to approve.
Well, this is what the state is asking, but of course, our grant expenditures are not going to exceed $37,032. When we're
So we-
looking for improvements and upgrades, it's my job to make sure that what we're doing fits into this dollar amount. What they're saying, the state is saying.
Patty, you might have misspoke. You said our grant won't exceed that. You mean our
Our
proposed budget.
expenditure, yes. What I'm going to, what Rich and I and Jason and Sean are looking into, is not going to exceed the $37,000.
What are we looking into? I mean, what
So
are
right-
our needs?
So right now, we're looking into, the grant allows you to increase your cameras, upgrade your server for your cameras. We're looking to move a panel in TES from where it is located up to the front. We're looking for panic buttons in the superintendent's office, which
Is
doesn't
this
have.
something that is better discussed in executive session for safety and security, or?
There are, I was gonna say, there are things I would recommend that we don't discuss in the open. There are, if I can speak vaguely, if you don't mind, there are things that we did based on the school safety specialist training and based on our own analysis of certain things and best practices, that although we might pass the baseline amount for meeting Alyssa's law, there are things that they're recommending out of the school safety specialist training that we should be upgrading to make sure that we are not just compliant today, but also making sure that our district is putting itself in the best position to ensure the safety and security of all those involved in our buildings. So
What's the second part of this? If applicable, the school district's responsibility to return a pro rata share of the school security project grant to the NJDOE upon termination of a lease prior to June 30th, 2024?
If we choose to lease equipment and we don't use the full the full dollar amount that we're given, but we won't be leasing anything.
it is our full intention to look at the amount here. We've identified key projects that fit within the scope of the amount offered by the grant.
So I'm okay with this, with the understanding that we're going to stay under the grant amount, because this language here is a blank check to do whatever you want to do after that.
Now, that is our intention as well.
That's all I have.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Patty, roll call?
Mrs. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Dilks?
Yes.
Colonel Hensky?
Yes.
Dr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lepsis?
Yes.
Dr. McCloy?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemaker?
Yes.
Mrs. Saylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you.
Nothing under policy. How about unfinished business? Any new business?
I was just being polite. I do have an unfinished business if I could.
All right, Dan?
Sean, is there any further update yet on OAL, Junior National Honor Society?
As we discussed before, a big thing is I want to learn more about and looking at how OAL is choosing to learn what it's doing this year. As we discussed, as to if we're going to make any transitions for next year.
Okay, so that's what you said, I think, last time. So you don't really plan to have an assessment until when?
I think right now we're looking at they've just brought in some of the new students into the OAL program, so I think it's better sense for us to look into this. Let's say probably early spring, Dan, that we can kind of get a better sense as to what this organization does during this year. Obviously, I know that this year itself is somewhat of an anomaly based on the inability to have some of the in-person meetings and events, but I think we should have a better idea as to where we want to go heading into the springtime.
And is looking into this internally by springtime, that's not going to preclude us from making a change that we could then institute in September?
Not
Is
at
there
all.
a particular cutoff date to open up a new chapter, for instance?
No, when I talked to Junior National Honor Society, they did not seem to imply as it would be a very arduous project, a timeline if we decide to make a shift that way.
Okay. I just don't want to, in the interest of having other things we're looking at and waiting till spring, I don't want to miss another year's window to do this if that's the decision that's made.
Absolutely. I think if we're heading into the way we're handling it right now, come, let's say, March, April timeline would still give us plenty of time.
Okay.
Pivot if we so decide to.
Cool. Thank you. I'll make a note. Thanks.
Any other unfinished business? Any new business?
Just a heads up, for ed tech people, we're probably gonna have a meeting. I'm thinking if Sean, probably before we go away for winter break. Or did you want to do that very beginning of January?
I'm thinking we probably can, the topic can probably wait until as soon as we get
Okay,
back.
so early January, I'll be in touch, and Sean and I will be having a meeting with Mr. Barton from the Township Committee tomorrow at 4. I saw that, Hensky.
Making faces.
Ditto on the operations committee side. I think we had some dates picked out, Patty, for the 18th of December.
Yes, the 18th, if that works for everybody, that would be great. Just let me know a time. Morning, or-
If we could get participation at like a 9 a.m., that'd be great. Otherwise, we gotta ask around.
9 a.m. works. Everybody else, anything?
I'm okay with 9 a.m.
9 a.m. I'm gonna have curlers in my hair.
Me too.
Okay, thank you. I'll send out an email, an invite. Thank you.
Brian, did you need me on that one or no?
For the curlers? No, I got them, Dan.
No, not for that.
Oh,
For the
you want the
meeting.
operations? Yeah, now I gotta refresh myself on who's on what committee.
That's why I'm asking. I don't recall either, to be honest.
And all my paperwork's at home.
We'll sort it out later.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Okay,
Pencil in 9 a.m. and the 18th, just in case.
perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other new business?
I have one last thing.
Ms. Sanders?
The information went out to 8th grade parents about the cap and gowns. It said the responses were due Friday, the 7th. So I think you're going to get a lot of confused parents who have probably not responded yet because they weren't paying attention to the day. They were looking at it being the 7th. And I do think we have lots of folks in our community who may have siblings who have already gone through. So we might want to look at what we're actually ordering. And it would be really nice to know how much I have to spend for it.
We actually just got that information today.
Oh, awesome.
It's around $19.30 a cap and gown. And we actually have to, part of the thing is when we make that price range, it's with the intention of all staff, of all students purchasing new. If we do not do that, the price goes up dramatically as well. So that's the downside from it as well. But the company did tell us, and I know it actually talked to our 8th grade advisors today about that, that it's $19.30 for the cap and gown.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other new business? Miscellaneous? Adjournment?
So moved. Brian?
And second,
Second, Kevin.
Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstain. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good night,
you.
Everybody. Bye.
Right.